The king is absolutely desperate to see his grandkids, Archie and Lilibet, which you can understand. It's been a very long time since he's seen them. What's in the works?
A grandfather who has met his granddaughter exactly once in her entire life. A document so quietly explosive that when it leaked, it didn't just shake Buckingham Palace. It forced a question that the entire British monarchy has been desperately trying to avoid for 4 years. What has King Charles III just done for Archie and Lilibet? And why, right now, does it feel like the answer could change everything? Stay with me, because what we are about to walk through is not rumor, it is not tabloid gossip. It is a story unfolding in real time, and the details are frankly stunning. The document that changed everything. Let's start with the document itself, because this is where the story begins, and it is not where most people expected King Charles to go. According to reports confirmed by multiple royal sources, including People magazine and CNN, King Charles III recently extended a formal offer, in writing, to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to accommodate the entire Sussex family, including 7-year-old Prince Archie and 5-year-old Princess Lilibet, on a royal estate during their planned July 2026 trip to the United Kingdom. Read that again slowly, because it matters. King Charles has offered Harry, Meghan, and their children accommodation on a royal estate for their upcoming July UK visit. Not a casual phone call, not a quiet word between aides. A formal offer, one that carries enormous constitutional weight because staying on a royal estate is the one thing that would automatically guarantee the Sussex family full police protection under British law. This is the document that nobody expected. Now here is the thing. And this is where the story gets genuinely explosive. The offer is breathtaking not just for what it says, but for what it solves, or tries to solve. Because this was not an impulsive gesture from an old man who misses his grandchildren, as sentimental as that framing might be. This was a calculated, strategic move by a king who understood exactly what he was doing. Ask yourself this: why now? Why, after 4 years of silence and distance, does King Charles put this offer on the table at this precise moment? The answer, as we will unpack in the next few minutes, is both simpler and more complicated than you think. The security war that shaped everything. To understand the full weight of what Charles just did, you have to understand the battle that made it necessary. Prince Harry has been embroiled in a years-long battle with the UK government after his security was downgraded by its Royal and VIP Executive Committee, known as RAVIC, when he and Meghan stepped back from royal duties in 2020. That committee, RAVIC, sits inside the Home Office. It decides who gets Metropolitan Police protection and who doesn't. And ever since Harry stepped away from his role as a working royal, he has been told, repeatedly, formally, and in the most bureaucratic language imaginable, that he and his family simply do not qualify for the same protection as the senior royals. Harry has called this a threat to his family's safety. His legal team has pushed back aggressively. Last year, he lost a challenge against the Home Office in the UK Court of Appeal on the decision. He has since been waiting on a review by RAVIC's Risk Management Board, which has not yet taken place. Think about what that means. A man who is fifth in line to the British throne, the son of a king, the father of a prince and a princess, and the British state has told him, in effect, if you want to bring your family home, you do so largely on your own. Prince Harry's legal team has claimed that 3 of 9 committee members on RAVIC are drawn from the offices of both King Charles III and Prince William, raising questions about potential conflicts of interest in security decisions affecting the Sussex family. Now, do you understand why Harry has kept his children away from Britain for 4 years? This is not stubbornness. This is not drama for drama's sake. This is a man who believes, rightly or wrongly, that the institution his father leads has made it structurally unsafe for his family to come home. And now, against that backdrop, King Charles reaches into this entire mess and offers his son the one thing that cuts through all of it: the keys to a royal estate. Although the king offered for them to stay at a royal estate, protection would only cover time spent on the grounds, which means it is not a complete solution. But it is, without question, the most significant gesture Charles has made since Harry and Meghan left in 2020. The grandfather and the grandchildren he barely knows. Let's pause on something that tends to get buried under all the legal arguments and political maneuvering. King Charles has spent remarkably little time with Archie and Lilibet since 2022. Archie is now 7. Lilibet is 5, and childhood is one thing no family gets back. Let's put that into perspective, because those numbers are more disturbing the longer you sit with them. King Charles has seen Archie only a few times, when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were based in the UK. He has met Lilibet just once, during the summer of 2022. Once. Lilibet Diana Mountbatten Windsor, a child named partly after her great-grandmother Queen Elizabeth, and partly in honor of Princess Diana, has been in the physical presence of her grandfather, the King of England, exactly one time in her 5 years on this earth. She was 1 year old. She will not remember it. King Charles has not had an opportunity to see his grandchildren since 2022, when Harry and Meghan brought their children to London for Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee. That was, in fact, Lilibet's only visit, and she was 1 year old at the time, making it unlikely she will remember the experience. And Archie, born in 2019, now 7 years old, growing up in Montecito, California. He has spent his entire conscious life on a different continent from his grandfather, the king. He attends school there, he plays there, he is building his memories there. And the man who sits on the British throne, his grandfather, who reportedly loves him deeply, exists to Archie mostly as a figure in news stories and family photographs. Since his cancer treatment began in early 2024, palace sources and royal commentators have consistently described Charles as privately motivated by a desire to know his grandchildren and maintain contact with them. Royal commentator Ian Pelham-Turner has said a thaw in family relations has been moving forward in recent months. What has accelerated it, multiple reports suggest, is not a change in anyone's legal position. It is the awareness that childhood is one thing no family gets back. That is the sentence that matters most in this entire story. Not the legal arguments, not the constitutional complexity. The awareness that childhood is one thing no family gets back. So ask yourself, do you think King Charles made this offer primarily as a political calculation? Or do you think, at 77 years old and having fought cancer, he is a man who simply wants to know his grandchildren before it becomes too late? The titles, the succession, and what is actually at stake. Now we need to talk about titles, because this is where a lot of people are confused and where a lot of misleading information has been circulating online. Let's set the record straight right now. According to the official royal family website, the current line of succession lists Prince Archie of Sussex as 6th and Princess Lilibet of Sussex as 7th, in line to the British throne. 6th and 7th, not removed, not stripped, not erased from the narrative. Still there, in official black and white on the palace's own website. It is Archie and Lilibet's titles that have made particular headlines. They are now listed as Prince Archie Harrison of Sussex and Princess Lilibet Diana of Sussex, and these titles have been their birthright since their grandfather became monarch. Buckingham Palace confirmed that the children's titles are in line with the 1917 precedent created by letters patent issued by George V, meaning the Sussex children have been able to use them since the king's accession. So let's be absolutely clear. Anyone telling you that Archie and Lilibet have been stripped of their titles, removed from the succession, or officially cast out of the royal family is simply not telling you the truth. The official record contradicts that claim entirely. But, and this is the critical word, their place in that succession line means almost nothing if they grow up never knowing the institution they are part of. Titles without relationship, rank without connection, a position in a line of succession to a throne they may never see, in a country they barely know, for a family they have not spent time with in 4 years. That is the real story about Archie and Lilibet's future. Not the titles themselves, but what those titles are attached to, and whether those bonds will exist when it matters. Royal editor Kate Mansi has noted that whenever King Charles talks about the future, or mentions anything about his grandchildren, the public automatically assume he is talking about Prince William and Kate Middleton's 3 children, and not the Sussexes. William and Kate's children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, are being raised in Britain, surrounded by royal tradition. prepared from birth for their institutional roles. They appear at Trooping the Colour. They wave from palace balconies. They are woven into the visible fabric of the monarchy. Archie and Lilibet, they are growing up in California. They go to school in Montecito. And from the palace's public communications, they are, as that royal editor bluntly put it, absent from the royal narrative entirely. The bombshell twist. Why Charles's offer didn't work. Now here is where this story takes a turn that nobody in the British press saw coming. King Charles extended his offer, the most generous gesture he has made in years. He opened the door. He offered the keys to a royal estate. He effectively handed Harry the one thing that could solve the security dispute and finally reunite him with his grandchildren. And what happened? The Duchess of Sussex, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet will not be accompanying Prince Harry when he visits London. Not coming. King Charles reportedly has no plans to adjust his schedule to meet Prince Harry after the Duke of Sussex announced he will not bring his wife or children to London, citing safety concerns. Let that settle for a moment. The king offered them a place on a royal estate. The king, who has cancer, who has met his granddaughter precisely once, who by all accounts privately aches to see these children before time runs out. He offered the most tangible, practical gesture in his power. And Meghan and the children are still not coming. CNN understands there hasn't been a decision on the family joining the Duke during other parts of the visit, which take place beyond the British capital. Prince Harry had hoped to bring Meghan and their 2 young children on the 5-day visit, but had concerns over his family's safety, as they were not offered taxpayer-funded protection while in the UK. The Sussex team's position has been consistent and, it must be said, not unreasonable on its own terms. For the Sussexes, the argument is no longer just about protocol. It is about whether a family trip home can happen at all without becoming another public situation. Police protection would be available while the family were on a royal estate, but outside those grounds, Harry would have to rely on his private security team traveling from California. So there it is. The document, the offer, exists. It was real. It was significant. And it was not enough. The king opens the door. The children do not walk through it. Does that make you angry? Does it make you sad? Or does it make you think that maybe, just maybe, the security dispute is not the only thing keeping this family apart? The secret meeting that changed the temperature. Before you conclude that this situation is completely hopeless, there is something else you need to know. Something that happened away from cameras, away from press, conferences, and away from the war of statements and counter-statements that has defined the Sussex story for years. A fragile thaw appears to be underway between Harry and Charles. In the summer of 2025, senior aides representing the King and Harry met discreetly at a London private members club, the Royal Overseas League, for informal drinks. When pictures emerged in the British press, speculation grew of a rapprochement. A private members club, aides, informal drinks, no announcement, no statement, no photo call. That is how peace is made in royal circles. Not with press releases, but with quiet conversations in rooms that cameras don't reach. Charles and Harry were able to reunite for the first time in 19 months in September 2025, when the pair had tea at Clarence House in London. The face-to-face meeting came as the king underwent treatment for cancer and triggered speculation that the royal family's long-running rift might be coming to an end. Tea at Clarence House, father and son, sitting across a table from each other, while the king is still undergoing cancer treatment. That is not nothing. That is 2 people deciding that whatever has gone wrong between them, it is not worth losing the time they have left. A royal source expressed cautious optimism about what a potential reunion could mean for the fractured family. Any meeting between Harry and Meghan and the king would represent a huge thawing of relations, the source said, adding that the king loves his son and daughter-in-law dearly and would relish the chance to see his grandchildren. He loves his son, he wants to see his grandchildren, and he is a king, a man who has spent his entire adult life being told that the institution must come first, that personal feelings must be subordinated to constitutional duty, that the crown does not negotiate, and yet here he is, offering the keys to a royal estate, meeting his son for tea while undergoing cancer treatment, sending aides to private clubs for discreet conversations. This is a man trying, imperfectly, within the constraints of his role, to hold on to the people he loves. What Prince William's silence means. There is one figure who has been conspicuously absent from every part of this story. One person whose position could, theoretically, accelerate the entire reconciliation, or quietly ensure it never happens. Prince William. Royal watchers say a reconciliation with his estranged brother, Prince William, remains unlikely amid their ongoing rift. William and Harry have not publicly spoken in years. Their falling out, rooted in the events surrounding Harry and Meghan's departure, and made searingly public in Harry's memoir Spare, has never been repaired. While Charles and Harry have taken tentative steps toward each other, William has remained where he has been since 2020, in the background, silent, and according to multiple sources, deeply unmoved. King Charles may be open to reconciliation with Prince Harry, but the future of any lasting royal peace could depend on Prince William, and whether he sees a path forward for his brother inside the institution. That is the piece of this puzzle nobody is talking about loudly enough. Charles can extend every olive branch he has. He can offer royal estates, arrange secret meetings, signal warmth through aides and intermediaries. But if William, the future king, the man Harry will one day have to deal with when Charles is gone, remains in this position of silent, intractable distance, what does any reconciliation actually mean in the long run? Archie and Lilibet are not just estranged from their grandfather, they are estranged from their uncle, from their cousins, George, Charlotte, and Louis, who live in England, attend school in England, and are being raised in the full knowledge of who they are and what they represent. Archie and Lilibet are their direct royal contemporaries, and they are growing up effectively as strangers. Here is a question worth sitting with. Is it possible that the real reason Archie and Lilibet do not come to Britain is not security, but the fact that when they arrive, there is an entire branch of their own family that will not welcome them? The clock is ticking, and everybody knows it. Let's come back to the reality of King Charles' health, because this is the context that gives this entire story its weight. Charles was diagnosed with cancer in early 2024. He has undergone treatment. He has continued to work. He has been characteristically stoic and characteristically determined. But no one who has followed this story closely is under any illusion about what his diagnosis means for the timeline of everything. Since his cancer treatment began in early 2024, palace sources and royal commentators have consistently described Charles as privately motivated by a desire to know his grandchildren and maintain contact with them. A grandfather with cancer, 2 grandchildren he barely knows, a son who wants to come home but cannot find a way to do so safely, a daughter-in-law who has not set foot in Britain since the Queen's funeral in September 2022. A country watching all of this unfold and wondering, at what point does this family stop being the British monarchy's most complicated drama and start being something more recognizably human? A story about time running out, about people who left it too long, about children who grew up in the gap between pride and stubbornness. The children's future connection to Britain and to the family their father left behind may well hinge on what happens over the course of a single week in July. A single week, 7 days, that is the window. That is how much time the Sussex family's visit to Britain actually represents. And within that window, the question of whether King Charles sees Archie and Lilibet, whether his grandchildren know him as something more than a face in the news, is still unanswered. Think about that. A king who has extended every gesture within his power, a grandfather who has been fighting cancer for over a year, and the grandchildren, 5 and 7 years old, growing up in California sunshine, speaking with American accents, building American lives, who may not fully understand yet that the man their father has been in conflict with for years is also the grandfather who reportedly aches to know them, what happens next, and why it matters. So where does this leave us? Harry arrived in the UK on Monday, traveling alone after deciding it was not safe enough to bring Meghan Markle and their 2 children to London. The Sussex children have not returned since June 2022, when they joined their parents for the Platinum Jubilee celebrations. Harry is in Britain right now, alone. His children are in California. His wife is in California. His father, their grandfather, is in Britain, and according to reports, had no immediate plans to rearrange his schedule once the news broke that Meghan and the children would not be coming. Harry has repeatedly said he wants reconciliation with his family, but the security issue keeps dragging everything back into the same old deadlock, where every move is interpreted as leverage by one side and as self-protection by the other. And that is the knot that nobody has been able to cut. Both sides, the Palace and the Sussexes, say they want peace. Both sides, the Palace and the Sussexes, appear, from the outside at least, to be doing things that make peace harder. And in the middle of all of it are two children who are now old enough to start forming lasting memories, who will one day be old enough to read the news coverage and form their own views, and who deserve, whatever the adults in their lives decide about politics and protocol, to know their grandfather. Harry's return to his home country has long been expected due to promotional events, marking 1 year to go before he hosts the 2027 Invictus Games in Birmingham, which means this is almost certainly not the last visit. The Invictus Games will bring Harry back to Britain in 2027. The question is whether, by then, the conditions exist for Meghan and the children to come too, and whether the opportunity that exists right now, in this narrow window of July 2026, will have been used or wasted. If a reunion happens this summer, it will not simply be a royal event, it will be an attempt to recover something that cannot be fully replaced. Ordinary time between a grandfather and two children who are growing up without knowing him. That is the sentence that will define this story, however it ends. Prince Charles made an offer. He put it in writing. He offered security through royal accommodation. He opened the door wider than he has opened it in 4 years. Archie and Lilibet are still in California. The titles are real, 6th and 7th in line to the British throne, listed formally on the palace's own website. The bloodline is unbroken. The legal claim is intact. But a title on a website is not a relationship. A position in a line of succession is not the same thing as a grandfather who knows your name, knows your laugh, knows which football team you support, knows what you ordered for breakfast. King Charles is doing something remarkable here. He is trying to be a grandfather inside a system that has never been designed to make that easy. He is working against decades of royal tradition, against the weight of constitutional obligation, against the unresolved rift with his son, and against the clock of his own health, and two children in Montecito, California, one who has never formed a memory of Britain, one who is only now old enough to understand that the life his father left behind is also the life that still partially belongs to him, are living proof that the most powerful institution in Britain cannot solve the simplest human problem. Whether this story ends in reconciliation or in deeper distance, whether Archie and Lilibet eventually know their grandfather or grow up mostly without him, that answer is coming. It may come sooner than anyone expects, but right now, in July 2026, a king has made his offer. The nation is watching, and the children are not here yet. If this story moved you, if you think this family needs to find a way through, drop a comment below. Tell me, do you think Charles has done enough? Do you think Harry and Meghan are right to hold the line on security? And do you believe this reunion will happen before it is too late? I'll be watching every development as this story unfolds. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what comes next. Because with this family, the next chapter always arrives faster than anyone expects.